hear me, if there's anyone that's joining or when you guys join, let me know. But I'm pretty sure you guys hear me. But I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the live. For those who do not know me, my name is Dakira, and I'm a dietitian that helps women to heal from recurring vaginal infections. I'm actually gonna put this mic here instead. And today's live is going to be talking about why you don't need to cut out a ton of different foods to heal your recurring vaginal infections, and actually some of the reasons as to why it actually may be more harmful to do this. So if you deal with recurring vaginal infections like recurring yeast infections, BV, UTIs, or you have cytolytic vaginosis or aerobic vaginitis, any recurring vaginal infection, Can you hear me now? Oh my gosh. So was I talking the whole time and no one could hear me? Okay, I'm gonna have to restart everything then. Oh Lord. Okay. So you guys can hear me now. Okay, so I'm just gonna restart everything. So hello everyone, my name is Lakira and I'm a dietitian that helps women to heal from recurring vaginal infections. So if you deal with recurring yeast infections, BV, UTIs, or if you have cytolytic vaginosis or aerobic vaginitis and you're just on a lot of recurring vaginal infections and doctors aren't helping you and you're being put on medications that are not helping you, this is the life for you. And in today's life, we're going to be talking about why you don't need to cut out a bunch of foods to heal your recurring vaginal infection, because I've had women DMing me telling me that they cut out gluten and dairy and carbs and all these things, and then leads to a life where you're miserable because you're cutting out all the food that you love. Two, it makes it harder to heal because you are cutting back on nutrients that your gut needs in order to help you heal. Our gut microbiome likes diversity to help it thrive. So when we're cutting back on foods, we're cutting back on the diversity, which can actually lead to more reoccurring vaginal infection because your gut doesn't have enough good bacteria to help fight off infections. So this video is about that. Follow my TikTok page, Vag Healing Nutrition. Subscribe to the channel. I'm actually going to be releasing 2 meditations after this live. One is for releasing the fear of recurring vaginal infections, and one is for releasing the fear around sex after healing your recurring vaginal infection. So those meditations are going to be posted after this live. But before this live, I want to go over some brief education on nutrition. I do have a video on my channel called How to Heal Your Recurring Vaginal Infections in 30 minutes. And it goes over more education on nutrition, but I'm going to go over some things briefly. So number one, we're cutting back on foods like gluten. For number one, gluten provides us with a lot of B vitamins because most most gluten-containing foods like breads, pastas, things like that, they're enriched with vitamins because the average American does not get enough vitamins from their foods. So the government decided to enrich those foods with vitamins like B vitamins and things like that so that they can get those nutrients. So when you're cutting out on gluten, you're missing out on a lot of B vitamins. You also may be missing out on fiber because fiber mainly comes from carbohydrates. And so when we're cutting back on fiber, we're not able to diversify our gut microbiome, we're not able to really feed the good bacteria in our gut. We're not able to eliminate waste. If we can't eliminate waste, then we're holding on to waste in our gut, which can cause more inflammation. It can cause excess hormones to circulate in our body, which can cause more recurring infections. It can cause PMS symptoms. It can cause hormonal acne, hormonal issues, hormonal skin conditions, things like that. So we need to have fiber, and that mainly comes from gluten-containing products. Sometimes, not all the times, but when we're cutting out these foods, so dairy itself also does have some nutritional benefits, but I'm not a big consumer of dairy, but dairy does have protein, it has some fats, it has some carbohydrates, there's some vitamins in dairy as well. So, and then also with cutting out carbs, we need carbohydrates. So there's a big misconception that carbs are bad and that we shouldn't have carbs when healing recurring vaginal infections. But carbohydrates are a required part of our diet. We have 3 macronutrients that we need all of our meals. It's carbohydrates, it's protein, and it's healthy fats. And carbohydrates gives us energy. Carbohydrates also gives us fiber. Carbs are broken down into glucose, and glucose is the brain's preferred fuel source. So we need around 130 to 150 grams of carbs in a day. If you're cutting back on carbs, you may feel more brain fog, more fatigue, you may feel more sluggish, you may feel like you just will not feel that great. So when you're cutting out carbs, for one, you're cutting back on the diversity in your gut because you're not having as much fiber, you're not having as much fruit or vegetables, and then you're also probably feeling more tired. And we need carbs for energy. That's carbs' purpose. The only thing with carbs is that because they can be digested fast, you want to combine carbs with healthy fats and protein to help with blood sugar stability. So you never want to have what's called naked carbs, which is carbohydrates by themselves because it can spike your blood sugar. So always have carbohydrates with fiber in them and also combined with protein and healthy fats. for blood sugar stability so that your vag is not going haywire, because your blood sugar impacts your vaginal microbiome. Our blood sugar is also correlated with our cortisol levels. When your blood sugar is spiked, your cortisol is spiked. When your cortisol is spiked, your blood sugar is spiked. And when our cortisol is spiked, we have higher stress. Stress suppresses our immune system. Our immune system cannot work under stressful conditions, so then we are more susceptible to reoccurring vaginal infections. So it's really important that you are being mindful of your blood sugar by consuming carbs with fiber and also with protein and healthy fats. But my other video goes over nutrition education and more details. So now to get started with this video, and reason number one as to why you don't want to be cutting out all these different foods to heal your recurring vaginal infection is because it can cause cultural dissonance, which is basically feeling disconnected from your culture. So if you grew up in a Latin household where you're used to eating tortillas, beans, and white rice, and you're getting recurring vaginal infection, and then you're being told you can no longer have carbohydrates, and if that's all that you're used to eating, then what else are you going to eat? So a lot of people end up eating things that they don't like, that's not even a part of their culture, like quinoa and other things. And nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, you can't just tell somebody from their culture they can't eat their cultural foods because this is what they grew up with, this is their heritage, this is all that they know. And it causes a lot of sadness and depression in people because they can't eat what they're used to eating. And I've had women in my DMs telling me that they stopped eating beans, they stopped eating rice. And beans are high in protein and they're high in fiber. They can actually be really helpful for healing your recurring vaginal infections. When it comes to carbohydrates, you want them to be the smallest portion on your plate. When healing recurring vaginal infections, you don't have to cut them out at all. You want them to be the smallest portion, and you want more protein and healthy fats on your plate. And you don't have to cut them out. So you need the proper education when it comes to healing recurring infection. That's why I do have the Vag Healing, the Vag Reset program, where I help women to heal from recurring vaginal infections, and I can help you to incorporate your cultural foods without cutting them out and feeling disconnected from your culture. So most restrictive healing diets will demonize traditional culturally meaningful foods. And this can cause, like I told you, an identity disconnect, especially for women who are from African cultures, Caribbean cultures like me, I'm West Indian, Asian cultures, Latin backgrounds, who are used to eating their native foods, but they're told by their doctors that they're unhealthy, which is not true. Everything can be healthy. It depends on how you eat it, the amount, and what you're eating it with. So number two, and this is a big one for me, but it can cause food fear and disordered eating when you're cutting out all these foods. So if you have a belief that gluten is really bad for you, dairy is inflammatory, sugar is really bad for you, all these things, you are subconsciously developing neural pathways that are telling your brain it's unsafe to eat these foods, so you cut them out. And then when you try to eat them again, because you programmed your brain to believe that these foods are dangerous or unsafe, when you eat them, subconsciously you're going to go into fight or flight mode, because your brain thinks that you're putting dangerous toxic foods into your body, and that in itself can cause a cortisol spike. So this leads to a lot of food fear. And there's a difference between disordered eating and eating disorders. You can have disordered eating without having an eating disorder. And when you end up developing an eating disorder, it can be a lot to heal from it. It takes psychological intervention, psychiatric intervention, it takes nutrition intervention, therapeutic intervention. So for a lot of people, it's really hard to bounce back from an eating disorder because your brain feels it's unsafe to eat certain foods or to eat in a certain way, and you do not want to end up developing an eating disorder. And even just disordered eating habits can be harmful, because you're going to start fearing all these foods, and then you're not going to want to go out to eat with your friends, and then you're scared to buy certain groceries. So you don't want to live a life in fear. And nothing about nutrition should be living a life in fear, because nutrition is here to support us, and we should be adding in foods, not taking away. So over-restricted carbohydrates, fruits, or grains can remove prebiotic fibers. Prebiotics feed probiotics, and can also remove essential vitamins that your microbiome needs to thrive. So our gut loves diversity. That's why we should be eating different colored fruits and vegetables at all times, different colored grains, because each color in a fruit or a vegetable or in a grain is a different antioxidant. Antioxidants, oxidants are like free radicals that can cause damage in our body. So antioxidants helps to minimize those and to get rid of them, to reduce inflammation in the body. So our gut loves diversity. So if one day you're having a red apple, the next day have a green apple, Or you can mix up your peppers instead of having just one colored pepper. Same thing with onions, eggplants, any foods like fruits and vegetables that have different colors. You want to always consume all the colors. So you want to eat the rainbow. Women on strict low carb or anti candida diets for long periods of time can actually starve their good vaginal and gut bacteria, which need and fiber to survive. So, yes, reducing carbs and sugar can starve off yeast and bad bacteria, but it can also starve off your good vaginal bacteria and your good gut bacteria, which can then lead to an overgrowth of bad vaginal and bad gut bacteria, which can then cause those recurring vaginal infections. So nutrient depletion from cutting out these foods can lead to poor skin and mucosa repair, low immune function, and more frequent infections. So when it comes to healing recurring vaginal infections, the more nutrients in your diet, the better. It's not about taking away, it's about adding in more. And life is easier and more fun when you can add in more foods. So, point number 4 is that cutting out excess foods to heal recurring vaginal infections does not address the root cause, because infections like yeast, BV, or CV, which is cytolytic vaginosis, which is when you have too much good vaginal bacteria, are often driven by gut imbalance, so gut dysbiosis, which stems from not eating enough diverse foods. It can also be driven by nervous system regulation. So I have another video I released 10 days ago or 11 days ago on why you need to regulate your nervous system to heal your recurring vaginal infections. Infections can also be caused by hormonal shifts. So if you're in perimenopause, menopause, or a woman who would deal with estrogen imbalance or dominance, things like that. And infections, like these recurring vaginal infections, can also be caused by trauma, not just food. So food is not the answer or the cure to everything, but it is a baseline for most things because disease does start in the gut. But these infections can be driven by other things. So, for example, for me, I know that when I was dealing with my last episode of recurring vaginal infections, it was driven by stress, not by food. And so, what if your recurring vaginal infections was driven by stress or trauma, not by food, but then you're cutting out all these foods for no reason, which is then decreasing your diversity microbiome load and causing you to have more infections. So, it's really important that you are mindful and that you're not just cutting out foods just because you see someone else talking about it. You have to do what feels good for you and work with somebody who can help you to identify what is causing your reoccurring vaginal infection. And that's what I help you with, like I said, in the Vag Reset program. That's also why I did a test with Evie, which is an at-home vaginal microbiome testing company that you do a at-home vaginal swab with, and they test you for over 700 microbes that your normal GYN does not test for. And so I did a test with Evie, and turns out that I had a high level of a bacteria called Gardnerella, which is a BV associated bacteria, and I would not have known that if I did not do the test. And otherwise, I would have just been like taking supplements willy nilly and cutting out foods for no reason. But this time, I didn't cut out any foods at all. I just added in some supplements and I added in some nutrients, some more probiotic rich foods, things like that. And I healed myself literally in 1 week. So it is possible for you to heal from recurring vaginal infection. This is not a lifelong thing, even though for some people they're dealing with it for a whole entire year or even more years, because I dealt with it for 2 years both times I had recurring vaginal infections. I had women tell me that they've been dealing with it for 8 to 10 years, which is literally insane that the healthcare system is failing these women and because they're dealing with these infections for so many years. So yeah, it's really important that you know that you can still eat perfectly and still get reoccurring infections, which is what a lot of women are doing. So a lot of women are like, yeah, I cut out gluten and dairy and all these things, but they're still getting a reoccurring infection. And that's because this was not your answer to healing it, and it's not helping you. So if you don't address the underlying emotional, energetic, or microbial roots, you're still going to get the reoccurring infections no matter what you cut out of your diet. So number 5, over focusing on candida or sugar is outdated. So as I mentioned before, not all vaginal issues are due to candida, and sugar does not automatically feed yeast if you have a healthy body with a balanced microbiome. So if we know that sugar feeds yeast, but you've been eating sugar all your life, then what makes you think that by eating sugar right now is going to then feed the yeast, if that makes sense? When you have a healthy body with a balanced microbiome, when I say sugar, I'm referring to natural sugars like fruits, not like added sugars like pastries and cookies. But when you have a healthy body with a balanced microbiome, eating these natural sources of sugar is not going to feed the yeast. Because if that's the case, you would have yeast infection for your whole entire life. So demonizing fruit or carbs ignores the protective role of glucose for hormonal balance, immunity, and the vaginal lining. So, glucose, like I said, is the body's number one preferred fuel source. Glucose does play a role in hormonal balance, also in immunity and your vaginal lining. So, it's really important that we're not over focusing on candida and using the candida diet and cutting out all forms of sugar, which is really important because we still do need those natural sugars. Number 6, which is the main focus of this video, is that we do need diversity to rebuild our microbiome. So like I told you, the gut loves diversity. So vaginal and gut health are restored by diversity, not by restriction. So I think, oh my God, is it a bug in my hair? So a wide range of plant foods, herbs, and spices, and even fermented grains can build a robust ecosystem in the body that keeps pathogens in check naturally. So when you're taking away all these foods, like you're taking away gluten, dairy, natural sugar, it's like you're taking away what your gut is looking for, which is diversity. And when your gut lacks diversity, you then have an overgrowth of bad bacteria and candida that can then cause the recurring vaginal infections. So always diversify your foods with different herbs, spices, different colored fruits and vegetables, probiotic-rich foods, fermented foods, good quality meats, healthy fats, which are really important for inflammation. Also, different fiber sources. This is all going to help you to heal your recurring vaginal infections. And just so you know, when I dealt with my first episode of recurring vaginal infections, it was a yeast infection for 2 years, and I did not use a candida diet. I did restrict a lot, and I still healed, but it wasn't necessarily the candida diet. So you don't need the candida diet to heal. You need to just add in more foods. Number 7, restrictive diets can disrupt your hormones. So under eating carbs or fats can lower estrogen and progesterone, which are critical for vaginal moisture, microbiome balance, and pH regulation. So when you have low estrogen, this can lead to recurring yeast infections. If you have high estrogen, that can also lead to recurring yeast infections. The building blocks of hormones are healthy fats. So if you're cutting back on healthy fats, obviously this is going to lead to some vaginal dryness, microbiome or gut dysbiosis, and also your pH can be dysregulated. Hormonal imbalance can lead to more dryness, irritation, infections, and painful sex. So cutting back on foods can actually be making all these things 10 times worse, which is what's really important to understand. Number 8, healing is a mind, body, spirit journey. So I've made 2 TikTok videos talking about how when you're healing from recurring vaginal infection, this is a mind, body healing experience. It's not just about cutting out foods or adding in a probiotic and wishing on a star and hoping that it works. It's about healing your mindset, because your mind controls your body. So the thoughts that you have on a daily basis, if they're negative, if they're not serving you, if they're disempowering thoughts, you're going to stay in this cycle of recurring vaginal infection. And it's also going to continue manifesting your reality, which is a reality in which you have the recurring vaginal infections. So vaginal healing is tied to self-worth and safety in your body, sexual empowerment, and nervous system regulation. So if you are eating completely healthy, like you're eating a lot of fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, but you're still having recurring vaginal infections, it can be something else that's tied to sexual disempowerment, not feeling safe in your body, low self-worth, nervous system dysregulation. Like I told you guys before, I do have a video on my channel of why you need to heal your nervous system and make sure that you are regulating your nervous system, so that you're not causing more stress in your body that can then cause more recurring vaginal infections. Because you can eat all the right things but still hold on to shame or trauma in your womb space. And if you are holding on to shame and trauma in your womb space, you're going to continue having the recurring vaginal infection. So that needs a different kind of nourishment, which is why on my channel I do have a vaginal healing subliminal. I have several vaginal healing meditations. I'm also going to be releasing some vaginal healing rampages in the future. I do have a free 8-hour overnight vaginal healing sleep tape. If you go to my link tree, you can go put your email in and get that free sleep tape that you can that has affirmations to help you heal your recurring vaginal infections. Dedicated to not just subliminals, but also to providing vaginal healing resources for your mindset. So like I told you, the subliminals, meditation, affirmations, rampages. Doing the subconscious work, the mindset work, makes the biggest difference ever, because you can be eating healthy and doing all the things, but if your mindset is shitty and you're expecting to get the infections, you're expecting to have a negative outcome, you're expecting an infection. I think I said that before, but either way, if you have a negative mindset, it's going to be a lot harder for you to heal. So mindset work is really, really important, which is why healing is a mind, body, spirit journey, not just about what you eat. It goes way beyond that. Number 9, sustainability is key. So if a diet isn't sustainable or joyful, it won't support your healing long term. And this is because whatever you do to heal is what you have to continue doing to stay healed. So if you feel like you have to cut out gluten and dairy and all these things to heal, once you add those foods back in, you may not feel safe eating them and you may get infections again. So you're going to have to sustain eating this way for the rest of your life. And for most people, that's not sustainable, because no one wants to live a life where they're cutting out all these foods and living a restrictive lifestyle, because it's damaging and it's also depressing. So sustainability is key, because food should also be pleasurable, accessible, and easy to maintain, especially for women with busy lives or financial limitations. So keep this in mind. Number 10, you can heal without being perfect. So you don't have to cut out gluten, dairy, sugar, soy, corn, fruits, and joy just to heal. Because what matters most is balancing your nervous system, restoring your microbiome by adding in more foods and not taking away, and supporting your hormones, and also loving yourself through the process. So a lot of women deal with a lot of self-love issues when it comes to dealing with recurring vaginal infection, because they feel like their body is broken, they hate their vaginas, why is this happening, they feel alone. I remember when I was dealing with this, I never met anyone who dealt with recurring vaginal infections. I was just like, why out of all people am I dealing with this when I don't see anyone else dealing with this? Like, this doesn't make any sense. I didn't even know it was possible to have yeast infection for 2 years straight. um, and so I was so angry at myself, angry at my body, angry at my vagina, just feeling like my body is failing me and that nothing is working. And how can you expect to heal when you're pouring hatred and anger into your body? There's a study by this Japanese doctor, I forgot his name, but he did a study on how the molecules of water change depending on how you talk to water and the emotion that you pour into water. And our bodies are mainly made up of water. I believe it's around 75 or 77% water. And so, if how we speak to ourselves, if the emotions that we hold and the thoughts that we have can directly change the molecular structure of water, then, and we're mainly made up of water, then how we speak to ourselves is going to directly impact our healing on a cellular level. So if every day you're speaking really badly to yourself, being really negative and angry towards your vagina, you have no positive things to say about yourself, you feel like your body is broken and you're crying and you feel like you're a failure and all these things, that's going to keep you in the loop of reoccurring vaginal infections, and you're going to keep manifesting the reoccurring vaginal infections. So that's why self-love is extremely important when healing your reoccurring vaginal infections, because look at your vagina as if it were an actual human being. Would you expect them to, um, if you're trying to speak to this human being, that's your vagina, and you're like, you're so fucking dumb, why can't you heal, I hate you never work, you're broken, would you expect that person to heal? No, but then you're talking to yourself that way and your vagina that way. So you want to pour love into your vagina, you want to speak with it, to it, with positivity, and nourish it with loving and kind thoughts. So to conclude this live, before I answer some questions, it's not a matter of cutting out foods and out all these things to help you heal. It goes way beyond that, and cutting out foods can actually be more harmful than good. And so if you need more help with this, I invite you to join the Vag Reset program, because I teach you how to add in foods, not take away, so that you can actually heal faster and more sustainably, and also in a more enjoyable, pleasurable way. I also have a Vag Reset ebook guide, which tells you all about nutrition and mindset and sleep and physical activity. And mindset, I think I mentioned that already, to help you heal from these infections. So I do have those resources. Otherwise, if you go to my link tree, I do have some other free resources, because I have resources on my YouTube channel. I also have 2 podcast episodes talking about like the spiritual meaning behind recurring vaginal infections and how to heal them and overcoming shame and guilt. And yeah, so now I'm going to open the floor to some questions for maybe like the next 20 or 30 minutes. I'll answer some questions you guys may have. And if no one has questions, questions in the next 10 minutes, then I will go. I'm not going to answer that question because it seems perverted, so. Let's see. Okay. If there's no questions by 12:40, which is in 4 minutes, I will end this live, but I will wait to see if anyone has any questions. Mm. Oh, also, I think I forgot to mention, if you do want to do an at-home test with Evie to get to the root cause of your recurring vaginal infections, I do have a link where you can get $20 off your first Evie order. When I first tried Evie, I wasn't an affiliate or anything with them. I just saw them on Instagram, and I wanted to try it to help me figure out why I was having a recurring vaginal infection. And I did it, and it helped me to heal in 1 week. So I was like, okay, I definitely want to get an affiliate link or something with them. But then they ended up offering me in my email a referral link. So I emailed them and asked them if I can receive commission off my referral links, and they said yes. So now I do receive commission off of anyone who uses my link, just so you guys know. But it's not for money. I refer this company because they help me to heal from recurring vaginal infections, and I know that they can also help you because they also test for antibiotic resistance. So if you have any biofilms, they also test for STIs, and a bunch of other things also. So yeah. The link for that would be below. 2 more minutes before I get off if no one has any questions. And like I told you guys, I'm going to be uploading 2 meditations after this, so you guys can have those resources. Okay. We are going to Okay, I'm gonna go now, guys. So I hope this live helped you tremendously with realizing that you don't have to cut out foods, you need to add them in. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below once I upload this live. But otherwise, I intend that this live helped you all, and I will see you all on my next live. Bye, everyone.